Every dog owner wants to show affection in a way that their dog understands. Yet without realizing it, many of us repeat a gesture every day that can quietly make our dogs uncomfortable. Most people naturally reach for the top of their dog's head as a sign of love. It feels harmless, familiar, and warm. But dogs don't interpret this gesture the way humans do. And for many dogs, head petting isn't comforting at all. It's confusing or even stressful. In this video, we're going to look carefully at why this common habit can cause problems, how dogs truly feel when a hand approaches from above, and how you can pet them in ways that deepen trust rather than accidentally chip away at it. Understanding their viewpoint not only strengthens your bond, but also helps you communicate more naturally with your dog. Dogs rely heavily on body language, and when one species uses gestures meant for another species, misunderstandings can easily occur. What we see as affection, dogs might see as pressure. What we interpret as a small flinch, dogs intend as a clear signal of discomfort. When these miscommunications happen again and again, the relationship slowly shifts, often without the owner realizing why. That's why it's so important to recognize the difference between what feels good to us and what feels good to them. Today's video will help reshape the simple way you touch and approach your dog, in a way that matches their instincts and emotional comfort. 1. Why humans naturally reach toward a dog's head. Humans show affection through touch, but our patterns of touch are shaped by our own social behavior. We touch children on the head to show approval or comfort. Adults touch each other's faces when they're being tender. Even something as simple as brushing someone's hair out of their eyes communicates closeness. These habits are deeply ingrained, so when we see a dog, our instinct leads us to express affection in the same way. The head is the closest point to us, especially since dogs are much shorter. It feels natural and effortless to reach out and pat them there. However, human affection doesn't translate directly into canine communication. Touching a dog's head may feel automatic, but dogs do not see this gesture the same way. To a dog, the head and face are sensitive areas. Many dogs instinctively protect these regions because they contain vital senses like sight, smell, and hearing. So even when we have warm intentions, approaching their head without warning can feel startling or intrusive. This isn't because dogs don't love us. It's simply because their instinctive social rules differ from ours. When we touch them the way we would touch another human, we inadvertently cross into territory that doesn't feel natural or reassuring to them. 2. How dogs experience a hand approaching their head. Imagine being significantly smaller than the person walking toward you, and then seeing a hand come down from above your face without any clear signal. That's how it feels for most dogs. Humans are physically large compared to them, and when we lean over or extend a hand downward, the motion can look dominant or threatening. From a canine perspective, dogs prefer interactions where they can clearly see and predict what's happening. A hand reaching directly toward the top of their head interrupts their view and removes their ability to easily anticipate your next move. Some dogs tolerate this because they've learned over time that their humans mean no harm. But tolerating something is very different from enjoying it. Other dogs, especially those who are shy or have uncertain past experiences, might stiffen, lower their head, or flinch without the owner noticing. For a particularly anxious dog, this gesture can trigger a defensive reaction, even if the dog normally behaves calmly. Understanding how intimidating this motion can appear helps us realize that harmless habits may not feel harmless to our dogs at all. 3. Subtle signals that show your dog is uncomfortable. Many owners believe a dog will always clearly warn them if something feels wrong. But just as humans often hide discomfort for the sake of politeness, dogs also try to avoid conflict. Long before they growl, snap, or show their teeth, dogs communicate their stress through small, gentle signals that often go unnoticed. One of the most common signs is avoidance. A dog who doesn't want their head touched might lean back slightly, or turn their face away, creating space without making a big scene. The movement is small, but it speaks volumes about their feelings. Their ears may pin back, not in a happy, submissive way, but in a way that signals caution. Displacement behaviors are another key indicator. These behaviors appear when a dog feels pressured but wants to avoid reacting aggressively. They might lick their lips even when there's no food around, or yawn at times when they're not tired. These gestures are their way of releasing tension and trying to soothe themselves. After a head pet, some dogs shake their body as though shaking off water. This is a physical attempt to reset after an uncomfortable moment. Whale eye is another important signal. When a dog keeps their head still but darts their eyes sideways, exposing the white part, it's often a sign that they feel uneasy or overwhelmed. These subtle signs may seem small, but when they appear in response to head touching, they tell us that the gesture isn't as comforting as we intended. 4. Why some dogs accept head petting and others don't. Every dog carries a unique combination of temperament, upbringing, and past experiences. Some dogs who grew up in calm households where humans moved predictably learned to associate head touching with positive interactions. For these dogs, the gesture becomes familiar rather than alarming, and they may even lean in happily. But many dogs do not share this history. A dog who experienced rough handling or sudden movements in the past may be particularly sensitive to hands near their head. Even dogs from loving homes can dislike the gesture simply because it doesn't align with their natural communication patterns. Confident dogs may tolerate it because they feel safe overall, while shy or anxious dogs might retreat from it instinctively. And then there are dogs who appear to enjoy head petting because they've learned that cooperative behavior brings rewards or praise. However, their enjoyment may simply be tolerance shaped by experience, not genuine comfort. Repeated head petting that a dog finds unpleasant can gradually erode trust, even if the owner's intentions are kind. When we understand that each dog's reaction is shaped by their emotional history, we become better at offering affection in a way that fits their individual needs. 5. Where dogs truly enjoy being pet, and why. Dogs thrive when interactions feel predictable, safe, and rooted in their natural instincts. When we approach them calmly and aim for areas they find comforting, the difference in their reaction is immediate. Most dogs prefer being touched on the side of the neck, the chest, the shoulders, or along the upper back. These regions are familiar within canine social interactions. Dogs often nuzzle or lean into each other's sides, so contact here feels natural and reassuring. Starting your touch from the side, rather than directly from the front, lets the dog see your hand clearly. This simple adjustment eliminates surprise and gives the dog a chance to participate willingly. Dogs tend to lean their body toward you when the touch feels good, and many shift their weight to guide your hand to their favorite spot. Many dogs, for instance, love being scratched gently at the base of the tail, an area that's rich in nerve endings and difficult for them to reach themselves. When you pet a dog in areas they naturally enjoy, you'll see visible signs of relaxation. Their muscles soften, their breathing becomes more steady, and their eyes may close slightly. This is the kind of affection that deepens trust and strengthens your bond because it honors the way dogs communicate and the types of touch they genuinely appreciate. 6. How to approach and pet a dog you don't know. Interacting with a dog you've never met requires extra care because the dog has no context for your behavior. The safest and kindest step is always to ask the owner first. Some dogs have anxiety, some are reactive towards strangers, and others simply don't enjoy being touched by people they're unfamiliar with. Permission helps protect both you and the dog. When you're given the go-ahead, extend your hand slowly and stop just before touching the dog. Allow the dog to decide whether to bridge the gap. If the dog steps forward to sniff, they're gathering important information: your scent, your emotional state, and your intention. This is their way of greeting you in a language that makes sense to them. If the dog steps back or remains still, that's a clear indication they're not comfortable with contact yet. Once the dog shows signals of interest, petting should begin at the sides rather than the head. Gentle strokes on the chest or shoulders feel safer and less intrusive for most unfamiliar dogs. These areas allow the dog to stay balanced, keep their vision clear, and remain in control of the interaction. Respecting these boundaries prevents misunderstandings and helps ensure that the encounter is pleasant for the dog. 7. Common petting mistakes even experienced owners make. Even the most loving dog owners can accidentally overwhelm their dogs through habits they've never questioned. Hugging tightly, for example, is a common sign of affection among humans, but dogs rarely hug each other. Instead, they tend to interpret restraining movements as dominance or control. So while a dog may tolerate a hug because they love their owner, the experience often feels stressful rather than comforting. Another common mistake is grabbing a dog's cheeks or ruffling their head vigorously. Many people do this playfully, but for a dog, hands near the face can feel confining, and sudden movements create uncertainty. Some dogs respond by freezing briefly, a moment many owners misinterpret as calmness when it's actually discomfort. Petting continuously without pausing is another area where misunderstandings occur. Dogs often endure long petting sessions simply because they're polite, not because they're enjoying the interaction. When you pause briefly, you give the dog the opportunity to lean in for more, or quietly step back. This small break transforms petting into a cooperative moment rather than something one-sided. 8. How to rebuild trust if your dog dislikes head touching. Restoring trust around touch is not complicated, but it does require patience and consistency. Start by demonstrating to your dog that your hand near their head doesn't predict anything uncomfortable. Move slowly and avoid sudden gestures. Always begin petting in their preferred areas, such as the chest or shoulders, so the dog feels calm and in control. Over time, you can gradually bring your hand closer to the head, but only if your dog's body language remains relaxed. If they lean in, keep going. If they lean away, respect their choice and return to areas they enjoy. This controlled exposure helps them understand that your movements are safe and predictable. You can also pair gentle touch with positive reinforcement. Offering treats, praise, or a soft verbal cue when the dog relaxes can help create a new emotional association with the gesture. The goal isn't to force your dog to enjoy head petting, but to help them feel confident and secure, knowing you always respect their boundaries. Dogs don't speak our language, but they communicate clearly when we know how to read their signals. By understanding which gestures feel natural to them and which ones feel uncomfortable, we can offer affection that strengthens our relationship instead of unintentionally stressing them. Avoiding head petting isn't about withholding love. It's about providing love in a way that makes sense to the dog. When we approach them gently, touch them in places they prefer, and pay attention to their comfort level, we build a bond rooted in trust and respect. These small changes create deeper, more meaningful connections and help our dogs feel safe, understood, and cherished. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about how dogs interpret our gestures. The more we understand their perspective, the better we can support them emotionally. If you'd like to explore even more ways to understand your dog's behavior and strengthen your bond, be sure to check out our other videos. Your awareness and care make a world of difference in your dog's life.